Hello everyone, welcome to the discussion of probable error in correlation. This is a concept used in Unit 4 in correlation and regression analysis. Probable error is a statistical tool which is used to measure the reliability of the value of Pearson correlation coefficient insofar as it depends upon the conditions of random sampling. Now, probable error is a very common terminology in statistical analysis. Let's just have a little bit background where we actually use probable error. Whenever we are doing correlation between two or more variable, what we try to see, we try to take a sample from a population and see whether this correlation coefficient, how is the correlation coefficient, and whether this sample is actually justifying the correlation value in the population. So basically what I'm trying to say is, based on the sample correlation coefficient, can we say that it is statistically significant or it is actually representing the population in a statistically significant way or not? That is decided by the probable error. So probable error formula of R is Pearson correlation coefficient. That value is equals to 0.6745 into 1 minus R square divided by square root of N. N is nothing but the sample size. I mean the number of pair of variables. Suppose to understand whether the income and IQ of people, there is a relation or not, I have taken a sample of 200 people and their IQ and their income we have just compared and find the value of R or the Pearson correlation coefficient. We can find out whether this sample is actually representing the population or not by the value of the probable error. And that probable error can be calculated by using the formula. So in the place of R, we will use the value of the correlation coefficient, and N will be here 200 as we have taken a sample size of 200. Therefore, probable error of the correlation coefficient, it is actually used to determine the limits within which the population correlation coefficient may expect to fall. I mean, this gives a kind of boundary of the population correlation coefficient. So if we add the probable error and if we subtract from the value of R. Probable error of R is an amount if added to or subtracted from the average correlation coefficient produces amount within which the chances are even that a coefficient of correlation from a series selected at random will fall. So let's just see what is the range of the population correlation coefficient. If the value of R is more than 6 times the probable error, the existence of the correlation is certain. That means that the sample correlation coefficient is actually significant. Or in a simple term, whatever the sample correlation coefficient, if we see the value of R is greater than 6 times P, 6 times P means 6 into 0.6745 into 1 minus R square by root N. If the R value is greater than that, then we can tell that the sample correlation coefficient is representing the population correlation coefficient in a statistically significant way. And on the other way, if the value of R is less than 6 times of P, then there is no evidence of the correlation. That means whatever is the sample correlation, that is not correctly or statistically significant way representing the population correlation coefficient. Removing the term 0.6745, if we take the other part, 1 minus R square by root N, that is actually called as a standard error. So now from a student points of view, let's understand how probable error giving you a clue whether the sample correlation is statistically significant or not. First, you will find the value of R, calculate the P, compare the R with 6 times P. If R is greater than 6 point P, you will tell yes, it is statistically significant. If R is not greater than 6 times P, R is less than 6 times P, you will say that the sample correlation coefficient is not statistically significant. It is slightly difficult to visualize at this point because you are not really aware of what is sample and population and how actually we are trying to see whether a sample is statistically significant or not. So probably when you will get the idea of those particular area, you will have a better understanding how probable error actually plays a role in taking a statistically good decision. In my next video, I'll be discussing about how to calculate Pearson correlation coefficient. Thank you.